This is Brian Carlton for ABN Newswire. I'm back at the Bowlers Club of New South Wales for the April Symposium Resources Roadshow. Icon Resources Limited is a minerals exploration company with development opportunities in tungsten, copper, zinc, iron ore and exploration prospects for gold, copper, tin and molybdenum. Icon's Mount Carbine tungsten project near Cairns in North Queensland in particular has the potential to become world class. Its Managing Director, Dr. John Bishop, presented today. He joins me now. Welcome to ABN Newswire, John.
Thanks, Brian.
Icon has a broad portfolio of interest, but it is your Mount Carbine project that's looking very impressive, isn't it? You've announced a capital raising to fund its development. How's that working?
Oh, that's working exceptionally well. The capital raising that we're about to undertake is actually a share purchase plan, which is aimed for to reward the loyalty of the small shareholder.
So mum and dad investors.
Exactly, that's right. They've just they've stuck with us through the GFC. And we think we're on the cusp of production. So as soon as the market is absolutely dead certain, as we are, is when the market shares our certainty that we're going into production, the share price will go up to reflect that. And the share price on the minimum basic model is around about 40 cents, about 5 times of what we're presently at 8 or 9 cents. So the board decision was, while we've got a low share price, let's reward those mums and dads. We've discounted it to the maximum allowed by the ASX, so it's a 7.5 cent share price that we're offering in this share purchase plan, followed up by a placement. Placement so that larger shareholders they get diluted in a share purchase plan. So you don't want to get diluted, go into the placement. So after that, then we're going to be done and dusted and go into the large capital raisings.
How much are you looking at raising this time around?
We expect to raise somewhere between 2 and 3 million, and we require about 4 million to get to the go button. Okay. So it'll largely take us right up to the go button.
What happens when you hit the go button?
Then we have an expenditure of something of the order of $50 million Australian. We start constructing the processing plant. We take the contractor for the mining, and that's when we go. Prior to that, we will have had an agreement. This is, in all probability, an agreement with an off-taker, and we're talking to off-takers,
okay,
the people that buy our product. Just to sort of, there's quite a concern in the Western world for security and longevity of supply in tungsten. China's got most of the supply. They are net importers, and they're not allowing any export. So
it's got about 60% of the world's resource,
that's
doesn't
right,
it?
Yeah, of that order. Depending which you read, it may even be 65% of the world's resource.
Now, Mount Carbine, the term world-class resource is thrown around often a little loosely.
Absolutely right.
How big a resource are we talking
what's
about
a world-class? Well, we say that it's a world-class deposit because at one stage it was the world's largest tungsten mine outside of China. So by any definition, that is world class. So and it also fought for supremacy in Australian terms with King Island scheelite. And some years King Island scheelite was producing a larger amount per annum, other times it was Mount Carbine. Actually, right at the beginning of tungsten's life, Mount Carbine was the world's largest, or the Mount Carbine district.
Because you are looking at, it is an existing open cut mine, isn't it? It's a big hole in the ground.
It is, that's right, that's exactly right. Everything that we want to do has been done before. It produced high-grade premium concentrates of scheelite and wolframite. We know that we can do that, and we think we can do a lot better because it's 25 years since it's mined.
And it presumably stopped because the tungsten price just didn't make it viable?
That's right. The tungsten, it actually went down to about $45, and it was the Chinese then, with all their resource, flooded the world market with tungsten, with many commodities. What they were after 25 years ago was foreign exchange, US dollars.
Sure.
Interesting how the world's changed, isn't it? They've got a large amount of US dollars, but in those days they didn't really care about the price, bring the dollars in. People say, well, will that happen again? Well, we know it won't happen again because they're not going to be seeking cheap dollars coming into the country. They can see that there's a limited resource. The thing about tungsten is that there's no substitute. The Chinese have declared it a strategic metal. In the US, it's a strategic metal, which means you need a stockpile. Their stockpile's been running low. That's another reason that the price will go up. The Chinese have put a quota on export. They've put a tax on export. So it's tungsten going in. You're a manufacturer of hard metal steel, you manufacture in Europe, you want supply of the material.
So why is tungsten so much in demand these days, and what is it mostly used for?
It's in the group of things called minor metals, things like antimony and I'm not, that's MINOR. It's certainly not minor in its properties. It's a very unusual metal. It's got the same weight as gold. In fact, it has been used as a substitute for gold. If you put gold over tungsten, it's hard to tell the weight difference is exactly the same. The incandescent lighting, that little filament,
yeah, sure,
that's made of tungsten. It's because it melts at 3,000 degrees plus. It's the highest melting metal.
So it's very hard.
It's hard, and with tungsten carbide as a metal, not so hard. Put it next to with carbon, tungsten carbide, second only to diamond in its hardest, and that's the main use for it. Is what they call the hard metal industry, which is machining steel. Mm-hmm. Every time you want to cut a hole in steel, you're going to be using tungsten carbide. All the drill rigs in the world for oil and petroleum, tungsten carbide. Want to cut into masonry, tungsten carbide.
Okay, so how much deeper will you be going in this pre-existing open cut mine?
The plan is that we will make a larger open pit, and then when it will still be, you make another wedge-shaped or a cone-shaped hole in the ground. At the moment, it's quite a large, flat. It's not a cone at the moment. It's a dish shape, I suppose, and we can make that dish a cone. And then after we've completed that, we'll then probably go underground. The grade seems to get better as we go deeper, and we're looking for a 10 to 20 year mine life.
The infrastructure in that part of the world's pretty good too in terms of shipping, yeah?
Well, yes, but actually infrastructure is the magic thing. One of the things that really make Mount Carbine exciting is that it's got all of the ticks. You need a mining lease. If you're going to mine, a mining lease. They don't give them away very cheaply and very easily in Queensland. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of concern. Everyone's more concerned about the environment, to put it. And people look at mines of 100 years ago and they say that's what miners do. So it's very, very tight. We've got a mine lease that we can mine on.
But the fact you're on a site that is already a mine must mitigate that problem.
Absolutely, it does completely. We've got sealed roads, we've got the power, and we've also got, when you do your mining, you end up with a lot of waste. We call it tailings, and there are tailings storage facilities there for many years as well. So it's all in place, and it's very close. It's actually about 45 minutes drive from Port Douglas, and it changed Port Douglas from a tourist town into a dormitory town.
Just have a nice game of golf while you're there.
When you're off duty, off roster, exactly. And we also, Mareeba's another large service town just close by as well.
What are the highlights of the rest of Icon's portfolio?
Well, we are a diversified company. We've got a large suite of portfolios, and whilst we're concentrating on Mount Carbine, we're putting 90-95% of our time and money into that. We were drilling for tin in central New South Wales. Tin's another exciting, it's comparable to tungsten. It occurs often in the same place. Our Tara Tin project's got some tungsten and Mount Carbine's got some tin. So they're complementary. And we're also looking for gold as well. People quite often, when they want to explore for gold, think Western Australia. There's a lot of old gold projects, old gold workings in New South Wales that are 100 years old that have had no exploration. We've got one of ours near Tamworth, closed down in World War I when all the miners went off to war, never opened again. It was running at 3 ounces a tonne. It's a very rich mine. It's a narrow mine, but has anyone looked at it since? No, they haven't.
What do you see the benefits of presenting at a Symposium Resources Roadshow, coming face to face with potential investors?
Well, I think investors they're a bit like this interview. They like to see the face behind the voice and the print, for that matter. So does this guy know what he's doing? When we were thinking to float, when we were working to float Icon 3 or 4 years ago, I can remember one of the brokers came in and he said, "Oh, I'm glad you've got grey beards, you guys. If you're any younger, I wouldn't take any notice of you." So you can look and say, well, why am I doing this I'm nearly 64? Why am I doing it? I do it because I enjoy it. I love it. This is a fabulous industry to be in. You get to all parts. I've worked from the Arctic to Antarctica as a geophysicist. I've worked in Africa, South America, and now, having spent 20 years being paid to tell people what to do, I'm now taking my own advice and doing our own exploration, and it's a great thing to be in.
Dr. John Bishop, Managing Director, Icon Resources, thanks so much for your time today.
Yeah, thanks, Brian.
This is Brian Carlton for ABN Newswire.